Hinton Fire, please be advised you are responding to a motor vehicle collision. This accident is located at 184 Eaton Road. Vehicle versus house. RCMP and EMS have also been dispatched to this location. There are 2 vehicles involved with multiple injuries reported and 1 possible DOA.
Family member Hinton 1071, I just received a report of a collision on Eaton, possible impaired driver with injuries.
Hinton 205.
NCC Hinton.
Do we know what the call is?
I don't know yet. I guess we'll look at the computer and see what it says.
I think I hear fire going out.
They're always paged out first.
Scene safety.
Yeah. Alright, I'm driving today.
Let's go.
smell a ton of alcohol coming.
I haven't.
No.
I haven't been
No,
drinking.
let's go.
No, you know what?
No. We're done. Alright, ma'am, right now you're arrested for impaired operation.
I wasn't drinking. I haven't been drinking. I wasn't even driving.
Alright, so right now I'm going to be right. You raise your hand and start you wish to contact a lawyer for a fee to go by service, we will provide you the telephone you can call them.
I
You
don't
also-
even know what I did.
Well, impaired operation, I can smell a ton of liquor coming from you, and that car smashed into that house.
But how do you know I was driving that car?
You're the one that came out of the driver's seat there, man. So we're going to do a test here in a little bit.
Okay.
So I responded to an impaired driving and motor vehicle collision call. With that, I engaged my emergency equipment, code 3 to the call. When I arrived, I noticed there was 2 vehicles already badly damaged, and there was one person outside walking around. I exited my car and spoke to the person walking outside. She wasn't really responding to me, but she was talking and conscious and walking, which is good because you're dealing with scene security and scene management as first on scene. I spoke to the passenger of the first vehicle. She advised nothing. She wasn't saying anything and was unresponsive. So I went back to the driver. What I found was the driver, and she was speaking loudly, had a lot of alcohol coming from her breath, unsteady on her feet, and her eyes were very red and glossy. I know these to be signs of impairment, and I arrested her for impaired operation. I brought her back to my car. As soon as that happened, emergency medical services came, EMS, the ambulance, and I advised them that there was one female unresponsive in the first car, unknown in the second car, so I didn't get a chance to check it. I brought her back here and I read her charter rights, her lawyer, and cautions. I then read her the breath demand and informed her that she would have to come back to the office to do a further test to get the true alcohol reading in her blood. We completed that, and she was found impaired driving, causing death as the one passenger died. Or both. So with that carries a penalty of 10 years to life, which is 25 years in Canada, imprisonment for impaired operation causing death. Very serious in Canada and very far too frequent that it happens.
What's going on? Can you tell us what's happening?
So one person in the passenger seat not responding. I don't know about the other car.
Hey Taylor, we're gonna need fire to just break the window so I can assess that other patient.
I know that car.
Are you gonna? You're gonna stay with this patient?
No, wait, I
Okay.
gotta get out. I gotta check on my friend. That's
Okay.
my friend's car. Dad! Dad! I have to get out. I have to get out of the car. No, you have to let go. Let go of me. I have to get out. That's my friend's car.
Tell me your name.
Her name is Jen. Help
Okay,
her.
what's Jen? Okay, what's your
No,
name?
no.
Jen is getting help.
It's Sarah, but I don't
Sarah?
think it's
Okay.
enough. Let me get her out, please.
When our radios go off, we respond. It doesn't matter what time of day it is, what we're doing. When those tones drop, we start moving. We come down to our ambulance, we get dressed, and we prepare for a call. We never know what's coming in. We take a look at our MDT. We discuss things with our partners. We come up with a game plan. Our first concern when we get on scene is always scene safety, because if I'm not safe and my partner's not safe, we can't help you. When we arrive on scene, we're going to make sure that our scene is secure, that fire and RCMP are present, and then we'll proceed. We'll make contact with our patient and decide who needs what level of care. When you come on to a scene where there's more than one patient injured, we have to triage. In this case, we have one deceased patient and we have one patient who is clinging to life. We're going to put all of our time and resources into our patient who has the best chance of survival.
I'm 23, I think. I don't know. Can you tell me where you are right now? I'm driving here.
gotta get another copy. Go on the other side, get it completely covered. Abby, this one's gone.
She's dead, guys. Yeah. Well, we're gonna deal with the patient first, and then we'll execute her afterwards. Okay? Okay. How are you doing in there, Taylor? Okay. You guys, are we able to break this glass here? Okay. Okay, like.
You taking the door? You want to get the heart protection? Heart protection. Okay, we're just going to pull this door. You get a lot of noise, okay? When our pagers go off, be it the morning or early evening hours, our guys are dedicated to make it to you as fast and as quickly as possible. We want to make it there safely and efficiently. But the only problem that we have is it takes a little while from us to get from our homes to the fire department, get our gear on, go into the fire truck, and go to the response location. This is a critical point for us, so we want to make it as urgent as we can. All the time when we do get a page, we will go hot, meaning we will run sirens and lights. We also got to be prepared to face oncoming traffic and other traffic going to intersections. We want to make sure our guys are safe. Our guys are the number one priority, and then when we get to you guys, you're the second priority. Another thing we want to do is we want to get to you so we can make you get back to the hospital within that golden hour. And that golden hour is the best time for survivability for any patient that has been in a very, very serious accident. got this door off.
You want the roof off that way?
Taylor, how is she doing? Okay, we gotta get her out now.
Okay, get out here.
If not, just let us know. Okay. Okay, Taylor, are you ready?
Yeah,
Are we rotating feet out?
Okay.
Feet out first?
I think so. If you can, or if feet first.
Feet first.
Feet first.
You first or just slide her over?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do
Let's
that
do
first.
that first. I can take these right here.
Alright, so let's touch each other.
Gonna be a little more comfortable. Yeah, we're gonna have to
need to get some meds in her as soon as she's out. She's in a lot of pain. We're looking at her blood pressure as well.
Okay, gonna rotate this way. Stop. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Need someone back here. You want to get in? Waldo, back here.
Yeah.
I'll get back. Okay, we're
Got
down.
this.
Wait,
We're ready.
down, okay? Slide her up. Yep.
We've got extra hands. Let's keep a hand on that leg. Watch your leg.
Got it.
Are you guys ready to move her over?
Yeah, you got the board. Just throw it on top of her. Yeah, good. Out of your count.
Good job, guys. I've got 2 lines. Can I get someone to hold traction on that side, please?
You want board straps, Natalie, or we're good with just stretcher?
Let's do just stretcher straps for now.
Okay.
There should be head blocks in that bed.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Stay
Sarah?
unconscious.
Can you hear me? Sarah? Alright, I've got no response. She's still breathing. We still have a heart rate. Let's get those vitals done now. How's that IV flowing?
You guys want to put that IV bowl? You guys got those spinal straps on her?
I have no lung sounds. Lung sounds on the left side.
We're not doing this?
Let's just get her in the unit.
So when we got on scene, we seen that we had two patients. We had the one in the vehicle that was screaming for pain, and then we seen another patient who was lifeless into the other car. We have to establish our incident command. So one person or one person from each agency is going to go together, and we are going to establish a plan on how to extricate these patients and who gets taken out first. So the person who was screaming in pain, who had the femur fracture, we sought that person to be extricated first.
While we were working on a plan to get them out, we got the other patient assessed also. We broke glass, checked pulses. That person was dead. So that person is considered black. We decided that we are not going to work that person. So we focused all of our attention to the person who needed, who could benefit from our help the most. So we extricate that patient, and then we try to do some treatments on scene, which we would have got some. We did our assessment, we would have done vitals, we would try to establish our IVs, maintain C-spine mobilization. We would try to do some meds to control that pain, possibly do a traction splint, and we would be off to the hospital.
All right, we've got equal on front on the right, none on the left. We've got some severe distension in her belly. We've got an unstable pelvis. We have an open femur fracture. No pedal pulses. We need to get her going as soon as we can, guys. Let's get her in the truck. I want her on the monitor.
Ready, Ryan? Yep. 1, 2, 3. Grab the monitor.
Watch her ID line.
Good.
We're gonna need somebody to come with us.
Hey, you want a driver?
Yeah, sure.
I know that there was a drunk driver's not because there was a cell phone found. You didn't know what was going on. Alright, let's get some Narcan in her. Let's see if we can Thanks, she's crashing. Close the doors, get driving. We gotta go now. We don't have a pulse.
I think she's crashing. We're gonna just start compressions here again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to start bagging her?
Yeah, I'll get an airway
1,
started.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Come on.
I'm gonna analyze for a rhythm here, Taylor.
Right.
Okay.
Come on, hun.
There's a shockable rhythm. We're gonna shock her.
Unclear, you're clear. Everyone's clear.
Everybody clear. Shocking patient now. Check for a pulse.
No pulse. Continue CPR. Still begging.
We need to pre-notify the hospital that we're coming in.
Right. Can you do a patch through the hospital? Let them know what we're bringing in. We have a 23-year-old female in full cardiac arrest involved in a 2-vehicle MVC. I'm not seeing any chest rise.
Let's analyze for another rhythm here.
Still no pulse.
There's a shock. We're gonna try to shock her again. Ready, everybody clear? Shocking the patient now. Is there a pulse?
We still don't have a pulse.
We should just keep going until we get to the hospital.
We'll continue.
Okay.
Now this patient deteriorated on the way to the hospital, so we had to start CPR. We started CPR, and we pre-notified the hospital. We tried to get good airway on this patient, and ideally we show up at the hospital and we'll try to work the patient more with that higher level of care with the doctors and nurses. And but in the end that this patient died. And it's all because of like somebody who chose to drink and drive. And this happens way too often. People are getting behind the wheel after one or multiple drinks, and they think it's okay. And nobody wakes up in the morning thinking that they're going to kill somebody at the end of the day, or any part of the day. And it's so tragic that your decisions can affect so many other people. Tomorrow, the next day, and your life forever. So definitely, if you're going to choose to drink, you shouldn't drive. If you're going to choose to do drugs, then you shouldn't drive.
Okay, so you want to grab your Abby? Take the full board and wall out. You want to grab under the armpit. We're going to pull out. We're going to pull it out. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1 more. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yep, I got it. That's here. Yep. So, you lift her up, drop her in. Okay? Stay on board. Yeah, stay on board. Ready? Lift the zipper over there. Lift this over here. Okay, we'll wait for RCMP to do it.
When we arrived on scene at this location, we noticed that we had 3 people that were involved in an accident. One was an impaired driver, one was a very seriously injured passenger, and then on the third vehicle there is a deceased person. Our members showed up, and the first thing they had to do is analyze the scene to make sure it was safe for our crew members to go in, for EMS to go in, and for RCMP if they had to come back to do any investigation. You'll notice that we cribbed the vehicle. We cribbed the vehicle before we went in so we don't cause any sudden movements in that vehicle. We also took the power out of the vehicle. The one thing that kills firefighters these days are the airbags. If one of those airbags goes off when we're in the vehicle trying to help somebody out, we could be killed instantly. So that's another thing that we have to do is kill the power. It's basically calling it stabilizing the vehicle so we can get in there and take the victim out. Another thing you notice, because it was a pretty simple scenario, things seem to move pretty quick. This isn't always the case at any scene. Every scene is different and poses different challenges. Like I said, a simple scene like this just took us 20 minutes, where when you get a complex scene, you can run into an hour and even over an hour. That is the stuff we want to stay away from the best we can. We want to get you out of that vehicle within that golden hour to get you to the hospital, and you have a better chance of making it.
And then we clean up as if you were never even here. But the reality is that you were, and that's something that we'll never forget. The toll that these calls take on first responders, because when those tones drop, we don't get to choose what we respond to. We respond. And when we roll up on a scene that was caused because someone made a foolish choice, someone drank and got behind the wheel of a vehicle, someone opened their phone to check Snapchat when they were driving, someone used drugs and had a fentanyl overdose. The reality is that all of these actions have consequences. There's this ripple, and it's not just you and it's not just your family. It's me, it's my family. It's the people that I love, because your trauma is now something that I'm going to carry for the rest of my life. So when you get behind the wheel, make sure that you're clear, that you're conscious, and that you're able to operate that machinery properly, because it's not just your life that we're talking about. There's so much more.
So my name's Alana.
like Carol said, usually at the end of the day is I kind of do a little wrap up of a situation that happened in our family. So everything that you've kind of experienced today, my family experienced here in town. I am the oldest of 3 kids. I have a younger brother who's a couple years younger than me and a younger sister. And we really were born, raised, and have grown up here. So all the little hot spots that you guys are, maybe partying at, we have done that. I was in Calgary. My dad was with me in Calgary. We were, he was helping me move, and my brother was here, and my sister was going to school in Lethbridge. And my brother was out at a bush party out by entrance towards Jarvis. And him and some friends, they'd been drinking all night. And it was about 6 o'clock in the morning that my dad and I got a phone call that he'd been in a terrible accident. So it was quite close to, when you're coming into town from Jarvis, the road turns and you can see Hinton off on the left there. He was very, very intoxicated, borrowed a friend's vehicle, may have seen something, swerved around and hit the ditch. He was thrown from the vehicle. And the other guy was also very drunk that he kind of couldn't remember if my brother was in the vehicle or not. He was thrown far enough away that they had a hard time finding the body, or my brother. So what they did is they went back to the party. There was a girl following in a vehicle behind. They went back to the party to find my brother. Couldn't find my brother. Went back, found him laying off in the ditch, and he didn't have a pulse, wasn't breathing, and they called 911. So everything that you saw in the hospital today was what my mom and my uncle experienced. They brought my brother in. They had the tube in his lungs, helping him breathe, a catheter in, and his injuries were quite extensive from being thrown from the vehicle. His arm was ripped open and the bones were sticking out. He broke his femur. He was smushed through the driver's side of the vehicle. So everything crushed him as he went through that glass. He had a crack in his skull and his brain was bleeding, and his 2 front teeth were smashed out. So my dad and I were in Calgary, and we got the call at 6 in the morning. And I am a nurse at the hospital. It's a call that you never want to get. So I look at my dad. I love my dad. He's the strongest man in my life, and to see for a 3-hour drive to Edmonton, my brother was being flown out to the ALEC, and to watch my dad not talk for 3 hours, just sit in the truck and cry, was very hard to watch. I tried to keep it together because I didn't want to make my dad upset. My mom and my uncle drove in from Hinton, and we met at the ALEC. My dad and I got there first, so of course we saw my brother, and it was wild in that room. He was laying there. I remember he was gray. It didn't look like him. There was dirt everywhere. The bones were out in his arm. And what I remember the most, even with the tube down his throat, is the smell of alcohol and the smell of just the dirt and the accident. And then again, to sit there and watch my dad have to look at my brother that way was something that will never leave my mind. So the doctor said, we can go in, we're going to do surgery, we're going to fix all these bones. The biggest worry is his mind, his brain. It's bleeding. We don't know what is going to come from that. So we'll go in, do the surgeries, and we'll see what happens after that. So he told us to say goodbye to my brother. So again, I watched my dad grab his hand, tell him that we loved him, and gave him a hug as much as you could hug somebody who is not there, and we left. So So they went in and did the surgery, and by this time we have a big family, and lots of our family came to support us. And we waited for 8 hours. They put a rod in his leg, they put plates in his arms and screws to keep his arm together. And then they woke him up. And then he was in intensive care, so he was in intensive care for, it was about 2 days. So only one of us was allowed to go in and see him at once. He was still intubated, asleep, not responding, and they were just worried about his brain bleed. So finally, after, it was probably the second day, they had a family meeting for us. At this point, they had stopped all of his medications, so he should have been waking up at this point because there was nothing keeping him asleep. And they pulled my dad and my mom and myself into this little family room, and the doctor said, you know, tonight's the night, you guys need to go home, you haven't slept. He's either going to wake up tonight, he's either going to pass away tonight, or he may be, you know, brain dead for the rest of his life. So you guys need to go home, pull it together, because if he does wake up, you need to be ready, because it's going to be a big rehab and stuff after. So I remember just watching my parents just sitting quietly listening, and we left, and I remember walking out, and there was a little bathroom off to the side, and I remember going into that bathroom and losing it. I lost it. I just thought, God, you made this choice. You made this choice to impact me, to impact my mom and my dad. You were laying there. You were not watching us go through this. All because it was a choice. There were 100 other choices. My dad would always come and pick us up if we needed a ride. There were cabs. He could have stayed over at that house. He had 100 other options, and he chose poorly. So I remember we all went home. Everybody was a mess. We stayed at my aunt's house, and that night at about 4 o'clock in the morning, my dad got a phone call from the nurse that he was starting to wake up. So we all kind of rushed in. They ended up taking the tube out of his lungs. He was coherent a bit. He had no idea where he was, what was happening. The last thing he remembers was going out that night, doesn't remember the party, doesn't remember the accident, doesn't remember the faces of my parents, our family. So for a week he stayed in the outlet recovering. And then he came home and he did tons of rehab and physio and stuff just to get him back walking again. And so anyways, that is what happened to our family, and I think we are very blessed. He was given a second chance on his life, and things for our family changed after that. We had a family meeting with the 5 of us, and our lives would never be the same after that. There was absolutely never an excuse to drink and drive. And my dad said, at any point, I will come and get you. I will come and drive all of your friends home. So just make the right choices, because that is the only time that you are allowed to put us through that.